Hello and welcome back to Logan Sounds Off. Today on my podcast, I'm interviewing a very interesting guest, unique on the scene to anyone else I've ever heard before. Nixer, or Seán, as we see here, has been making some great music over the past few years, and recently he released his latest EP called I Hit the Town and the Town Hit Me Back, and it's doing very well. So we're going to speak about that much more in the next few minutes. So, Seán, how are you?
Great stuff. Pleasure to be here chatting with you, Logan. Thank you for having me.
The pleasure's all mine. It's great to have you on the podcast. And for those who are unfamiliar with Nixer, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so Nixer is a project that I would say is influenced by my love for guitar music and songwriting, but inspired by my love for dancing and the dance floor. So like that's where you get like the electronic kind of influence. So yeah, just out here making music that I love to make. So it's a great feeling.
It actually is incredible. And you can really, if there's anyone there who has heard Nixer before, is familiar with their music, you can really hear where Seán's coming from with the dance floor vibe. I really like that actually. And I know two of your more recent influences would be Radiohead and more now on the scene, The Smile. But growing up, what were your inspirations?
So it's funny when you say that, Logan, because the reason why I didn't like Radiohead growing up as a kid was because when I was your age, my dad like pushed me away from them. He's like, no, not Radiohead, not Radiohead. He didn't like them. So I was very influenced by kind of my parents' taste and kind of what they were showing me and like kind of what they were listening to. So I mean, back God, I was thinking about this over the last few days, and it was bands like the Fun Loving Criminals. It was bands like Gorillaz, Stone Roses, Oasis, like AC/DC, an eclectic range of music that my parents just had on CD, and we listened to in the car, in the kitchen while they're cooking dinner. So yeah, kind of stuff like that was really happening around the late 90s and early 2000s.
Really cool influences there. Especially,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Gorillaz. I really, really like Gorillaz, and I think Damon Albarn is an incredible musician. And with all this music around you, like we were saying, with all these different CDs and a very eclectic mix,
Yeah.
um, did you always aspire to be a musician?
So I always aspired to do what I love, and I've always been very passionate. So I think at a very young age, it was like I want to be a professional sports player. I want to, play Gaelic football for loud. But then I picked up a guitar and I started playing guitar, and I realized I want to be on a stage. I want to be writing music. I want to be performing music. So the dream of being a professional musician, being on a stage in front of loads of people and writing my own music started to come around, the age of 11, 12, when I first ever experienced live music and I seen my favorite ever band, Arctic Monkeys, play. And I was 11 years of age and that was my first ever gig. And from that moment, I was just like, I want to be like Alex Turner. I want to be on a stage and I want to write music. So I've had that dream for a lot of years now, for sure.
Wow, that so with that massive like build up of a dream, because it's an incredible way to get into nearly performing with
Yeah,
Arctic Monkeys, an incredible band, and I'd say seeing them live at that young age must have blown you away.
for
But
sure.
when you started making music, how did it start? Because obviously you'd been thinking about it for a very long time. So how
Yeah.
did it all start off?
So for me, it came at a point in my life when exams in school were one side of the coin and music and sport and like creativity was the other side. So I felt like one was an escape from the other. And I remember I would have been about 16 years old and I did guitar lessons when I was a kid and it felt like more of a chore. I felt like I didn't want to really be there. I would much rather be like going for trials for Loud or playing basketball in Dublin. And I was studying for exams in fifth year and I decided to pick up the guitar again purely because I didn't want to study for an exam. And I remember there was a song by Miles Kane called Color of the Trap that Alex Turner actually wrote. And I basically learned the chords for that song, but wrote my own lyrics over it. and it felt really good. And I thought at that moment, whoa, I can do this. You know, at that moment in time at 16, I wasn't able to like write my own melody or come up with my own guitar riff, but the lyrics and the words and the vocal melody came quite easy. And I thought, whoa, this is something I want to start to do. And from that, and because of school and because I didn't want to study for exams, I kind of found a whole new love and passion.
Wow. It's a very strange way to get into a passion, but I think that's a really interesting way to start
Yeah,
writing music. That's really, really cool. And as you've been discussing, you've been mentioning Loud, that you always wanted to play with Loud and that play basketball in Dublin. So for anybody who knows Ireland, I know there's some listeners in America who aren't familiar with the geography of Ireland, but you are originally from here. And you're currently based though in London,
yeah,
London in England. And uh, if there is a comparison, how
yeah.
does the music scene there to here compare?
Oh, that is a brilliant question, Logan. And my immediate answer is it doesn't. I really don't think it does compare. Um, and I feel like that's a massive factor to why so many amazing artists are living that are from Ireland are living in London. And it feels almost like London is a vessel to success, you know. If you come to London, you have the potential to become a massive band. But being based in Dublin or based in Ireland, it feels a little bit harder. And I think that's down to there's not enough venues for live music. There's not enough, you know, bands kind of like to create a scene. Don't get me wrong, there's amazing scenes in Dublin at the moment, especially in hip hop and, you know, some like guitar bands. There's really great stuff happening, but London is just a lot bigger and better, and opportunities just feel like they're easier to get, you know, and it's exciting because, you know, you could go see the best band in London or the world right now playing down the road for like £5. Whereas in Ireland, it's not as accessible or not as easy, you know. So it's really hard to compare the two, I would say.
Wow, I never really thought of it that way, that there it's hard to compare, but I see where you're coming from. And then obviously you're a great writer. Anyone who's listened to Nixer knows that. Do you have any techniques for when you're writing music?
Again, brilliant question. I think one of my more obscure techniques, which I think is down to being fit and active and like loving sport, even though like I kind of not gave up sport for music, but like I don't play it as competitively. But like something that is very crucial to my songwriting process is just hopping on my bike and cycling, just cycling around London or cycling from A to B and just thinking about like my surroundings, what I want to write about, or kind of what I hear or like see as I'm cycling my bike. That's a massive part of like inspiration for me. And I find when I'm on my bike and I can cycle and just let go, the creativity just comes a lot easier and the words just, yeah, they present themselves rather than I look for them.
Wow, that's really, really interesting. And then obviously there's a lot of really great ways to do many things, and exercise is an amazing one, especially regarding schoolwork, but I never
Yeah,
thought writing music would be one of them as well.
that's
So,
something, Logan, that I think I didn't realize. I kind of lost not interest, but as like I stopped playing competitive sport and then I started maybe working or studying more seriously or working more seriously, I forgot that exercise really helps your brain and really helps like you feel good about yourself. And then when like music was like really starting to happen for me in a great way, I noticed that I was gymming or exercising or like cycling a lot more than I used to. So I feel like the two of them are so important in order to coexist and make you feel like, yeah, better about yourself, you know?
that's a great balance, though, exercise and music.
Balance, exactly.
Yeah. And then obviously with all this songwriting, you've put out a couple of EPs now and a ton of singles, and your latest EP, which was only released on the 15th of May, so not too long ago now,
No,
um,
no.
called I Hit the Town and the Town Hit Me Back, is incredible. It's now on vinyl, it's
Yeah.
now on CD. Actually, if you're on YouTube, Spotify, You can find the links down in the description on any of the platforms you're watching on, or check it out on my website to where you can buy Nixer's new album and stream it as well. But what was the inspiration to this? Because it feels a lot like a concept EP, and it
Mhm.
feels very different to anything else you've ever done,
Yeah,
especially some of the singles.
yeah. So I'm from a big town in Ireland, and the town is Drogheda. And I feel like as a young person and growing up, being from a town was a massive part of my life, you know? Even like hanging out with my friends, like, oh, let's go down to town, let's go for a walk around the town. Everything was the town, the town, the town. And I just loved the idea of writing a concept record that was encapsulated by personifying this town and kind of the real hidden meaning in the songs, whereby this kind of like night out, or like you're going out on the town, and instead of like, you know, hitting the town is a very colloquial Irish, oh, we're hitting the town, we're going out, but the idea of the town then like hitting you back like a shoulder in a game of football, or you know, like a box or something, it just felt like, for me, a very funny expression. And I loved the idea of writing this record that was opened with hit the town, and it was closed with hit me back, almost like the front and back cover of a book, and writing singles that like were about everything in between. You know, it's a lot of the songs are about kind of like my relationships with my friends, and kind of my relationships with like exercising and creativity, and kind of like, you know, the struggle to survive in London and how expensive it is to afford rent and stuff. So yeah, I'm really, really proud of that work. And yeah, just the lyrics and the songs and the meaning behind them all.
Wow. And I have to say, listening to some of the songs, lyrically, they're very interesting.
Yeah. Have you got a
Uh,
favorite?
I have to say, I really like the book,
Yeah, same.
and I do like Saccharine's Smile as well.
Yeah,
But my favorite would definitely be the book. And
yeah,
that album, I think it's nearly like looking at your career from when you released your first single to now this, I
yeah.
can see how much um nearly how much more you've put in to this album, and it's just a really great record. You should
And
really listen to it if you haven't heard it before. Um but you've also been featured in many things now since you started off in the career. You were featured in Hot Press under the top track section for
yeah,
recommended tracks, and that was incredible to see. And you were interviewed by Alan Core for RTE and much more. And with every release, you're gaining popularity. Even though the latest EP hasn't been out too long, you've still gained so many more listeners. What's that like seeing this all happen before you?
yeah. It's, you know, I think it's the hardest part of releasing music in a number of ways. Now you can look at it, I think, two ways. One, you can see the success and you can see the numbers rising, and then you can maybe get a bit carried away, or maybe a bit confused by it all. Or something that I think I'm somewhere in between these two. I can do the other side, where you just ignore it all, and you're driven by passion, and you're driven by, you know, doing something like this, Logan, and like releasing an album. It's a massive outlet. It's a massive creative, you know, endeavor, where like it's almost like therapeutic. You write an album and you release it into the world, and it's great. And to almost nearly ignore the success, or like not let it affect how you feel about it, I think is very empowering. Because if you were to release a song or an album and only be satisfied and only be happy if it got 1,000 streams, or if Logan wants to interview you, or if like Hot Press are going to do a review, if that's what you base your success off, I don't think you'll ever be happy. So I think in order for you to like, you know, fully engage with what happens after you release music, is to like be quite humble in the process and be like, I did that and I loved it, and no matter what else happens, I'm happy. And it's good to see people engage with it, and I love meeting fans, and I love playing gigs, and being like, oh, this is my favorite song, and me be like, oh, I love that song too, and like, really express that love for what you've done. But it's also important to realize that you've done it for yourself, and you've made it because it was something that you felt like you really needed to do and you really wanted to get out of you. And no matter what people say or don't say about it, you've done a great thing. And I try to stay somewhere in the middle of those two.
That's really incredible. And you definitely come across as a very humble musician and very unfiltered with your albums and especially your community. If you go on to Nixer's Facebook page, um, really lovely pictures of a concert or anything, and
Yeah,
underneath you have all that support from fans going, "Well done, lads," and all this. It's really, really good to see. And I think it adds a bit of reality to a music scene that's really dominated by musicians now, like really big musicians are dominating the scene. So it's great to see really lovely communities like Nixer.
yeah,
And obviously we were mentioning earlier with that you can play guitar and your music is very varied. And I love hearing the guitar in your music, but there's a lot of synth and, as you were saying, dance floor kind of music inspirations there. So obviously the guitar isn't always in there. So can you play any other instruments?
yeah. So when it comes to writing music, um, what I bring to the table is my vocal is a big instrument that I use. Then I have my guitar. I can play bass guitar. I have a whole lot of synthesizers in my bedroom as well. And then I produce too. So, when you have a computer is almost the biggest instrument these days because you can do anything. You can use a keyboard to literally play a guitar, play a violin, make a whole string arrangement. So yeah, I'm blessed to have like a good understanding of like my workplace, and yeah, so it's good. But the latest record that you've heard, Logan, it's produced with my guy in Los Angeles, Simon Gardner, who I think is a big part of why this record conceptually and sonically really has stepped us up a level, because he is an amazing producer and amazing guy. And I was introduced to him online about a year and a half ago, and we made this whole record. Him based in New York at the time, and me based in London, and we'd never met before. But last month, I visited California for a month, and we made up like 10 brand new songs, and we met for the first time. So that was a crazy experience.
That must have been very strange. And you can imagine working on music with somebody and then you finally meet them. That's
I know.
crazy.
I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of nervous because, this is a guy I had a lot of love for, and we've made such amazing music today. And like, imagine we didn't get along. And I was like, oh, I was like, it was like having a pen pal, but way more, riding on it, because if we didn't get along, it would have been like, oh. So I was very happy that things went well.
Wow. So, look, regarding the music scene, you're doing very well. And
Yeah.
regarding your inspirations, I have to say, I love a lot of the bands that you like regarding Oasis and Gorillaz. But my question for you now is, um, meeting people like Simon and being on the music scene, do you have any recommendations that you would give maybe to the listener or maybe to me or just to the world that you've just been listening to recently that you think are really good records or maybe a band that you think are really good?
That's a great question. Well, God, where do I start here?
It's
I
always
mean,
the hardest question. I don't know
is
why.
before I answer that question, let me have a quick look at my Spotify just so I don't miss any big ones that I want to shout out. One moment there. Um, okay, so I guess with new music in Ireland, um, it's always important to back the Irish, right? I'm uh, I'm loving what Gurriers are doing at the minute. They're a great band. Wait, where are you going? Can I see you? There you are. Wait, hold on. I'm loving what Gurriers are doing at the minute, and they're going to be putting out their first album later in the year, which I'm very excited for. And then in terms of like kind of my own personal taste and kind of stuff I'm excited about, there's a lot of stuff happening in London, which is super exciting. A lot of underground experimental stuff. There's this rapper called John Eno, which I'm really digging at the moment. They just released their first mixtape a few weeks ago. And there's this artist called Discovery Zone. They make kind of synthy experimental music. They're a US artist based in Berlin. I really like what they do. But yeah, there's so much music. We could talk all day on this. But yeah, there's so much. I'm just a recent discovery, not discovery, I would say rediscovery of mine was when I was in California, we were listening to a lot of Metronomy. And it was amazing because they, especially when I was a teenager, their music was the soundtrack to the charts. They had a lot of big indie kind of bangers, and I totally forgot how great they were. And I think a lot of my music over the last month is very inspired by their sound, so that feels exciting too.
Yeah, sorry, before I continue,
Yeah,
great recommendations. Thank you so much. And yeah, no, I like that kind of feel, especially synth. I remember I used to, and I drove my parents mad. I used to listen to Sweet Dreams Are Made of This so much
yeah,
by Eurythmics.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
not because I really like the song. It's a good song, but it wouldn't be my favorite
yeah.
um song ever. It's because I love that synth sound.
Beautiful. Yeah,
It's really, really cool, and nearly like a distorted, nearly synth
yeah,
sound always sounds really cool. But I just find it interesting whenever I do these interviews that it's like I might ask about some people I might ask 20 years ago, and they
yeah,
might be like, oh God, I have to remember that. But it's
yeah,
always when
yeah,
it comes to recommendations, it stumps them the most.
yeah.
So it's
It's
interesting.
an important one. What about you? What are you listening to? Or what's like your top three at the moment?
Oh, there's some really good stuff that I'm listening to at the moment. And I listen to a lot of stuff. I think there's more stuff that like whenever somebody asks me this and I talk to somebody about what I'm listening to, I'd say I probably talk more about what I'm going to listen to
Yeah,
than what I do listen to. I was listening to a lot of Jello Biafra's
nice.
music recently. With the Guantanamo School of Medicine. I've been listening to an audiobook called The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Yeah,
I've been listening to a playlist, actually, not an album by Fontaines DC called
right.
Rattlebag, which was
Yeah,
like influences for Hero's
yeah,
Death. And that's really good. I've been listening to Future Islands' well, it's not really new anymore, but album. I listened to Green Chatton's new album for the first time a couple of weeks ago and I really liked it.
really good.
Um I've been
Ha-
listening out to Fontaines DC as well a lot.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. They're great. I think they're a big inspiration for any Irish act, no matter how big or small you are now, because they're doing like rock band, big guitar music stuff. Like they're like selling out
Yeah.
nights in Tree Arena. Like wow, I'm so proud of them. They're amazing. And it's great to see it. No matter how big or small you are as an actor now, they're a benchmark. They're like whoa,
Yeah.
they're living the dream. But I'm not gonna lie, Logan. I love pop music. I love, especially with a female vocalist. And I don't know if you ever listened to Billie Eilish, but
Oh
she dropped.
yeah.
I
New
love.
album.
It's so good. Have you listened to it?
I've listened to a couple of the tracks and
Yeah,
it's something that I'm gonna need to listen to a
I,
lot more.
yeah, yeah. I think she's
Yeah.
really her voice on this record. It's amazing. And what I love about her is like she makes the music with her brother. Like that is,
Yeah.
and I
That's
just
so
love that
great.
whole family vibe. And like even on this record, she's talking about stuff that like is a bit more out there, and it's her really discovering herself as like a woman. And I think the lyrical content on it is amazing. And I love a pop girly with a good female vocal. And this record, I highly recommend. It's a good one.
I would actually recommend it. I'm not sure do I like it or not though. I'm still trying to just
Uh,
it's
do you
it's a
can't
ha
like? Oh, you can't like. Oh.
I don't know because I haven't listened to it fully, but I'm just gonna need
Yeah,
to kind of listen to it a lot. I've been listening to CMAT's new single, who's
amazing. Yeah,
incredible. I am looking forward to Ben Platt's new album. Some people might know him as the actor for Evan Hansen in the musical Dear Evan Hansen. I listened to Neil Young's new live album with Crazy Horse called, actually, you can't say it here. Sorry about that. Just check out Crazy Horse's page and you'll see it there.
Yeah.
I've
Oh,
been listening.
is it not PG enough? No.
No, I'm sorry. But um,
Good.
but they're good enough to have it actually on the album cover. They have it
I
blacked
have
out, and like when you can buy
yeah,
the album, it's actually blacked out, and it's not
that's
like a sticker or anything. It's so
yeah.
funny.
Have
Um,
you? So you were sorry, you were talking about your rhythmics there and the synth sound. Is there anything like because obviously you're getting into music at such a great age, at such a young age. Is there anything for you, like whether it's a lyric or like a synth sound or a guitar sound or the name of a band that really made you be like, whoa, I love music, or I want to start discovering more about music?
well, I mean, there's so many, but I would say three like bands, albums, and sounds
Yeah,
that would get me into music. So a sound would have been at 4 years of age. If you've been following my podcast for
yeah,
a very long time, you might know One Inch Man by Caius. That sound, that gritty sound. And I always used to talk to my dad about type of music, and he would always be confused. What are you talking about? I'd say dust music. Because, and I meant stoner rock, but I used to say
yeah,
dust music because to me it sounded like there was nearly sand, which is funny because like desert rock and whatever.
yeah,
It sounded like it was gritty and sand in the amp and stuff.
yeah.
And that's what really kind of launched me into music. And then as well,
That's
a band that like again, Josh Homme played with Caius. Josh Homme is fantastic in Queens of the Stone Age.
yeah,
I like I don't know would they be my favorite band in the world, but they would be my top three, definitely. And I like a lot of stuff. So
yeah.
for me to say that it's pretty big, but
How amazing that you got to chat with
yeah.
him.
I mean,
That's
he's so nice, but I would
yeah,
recommend if you're getting into Queen's Stone Age, listen to everything and then see them live
yeah,
before
yeah,
you make any judgment. Because if you see
yeah.
them live, they're incredible. Like they're really good. And then an album to me that like Desert Island kind of thing, Desert Island Disc nearly. I would say off the top of my head, there's two actually, I would say. First of all, Nighthawks at the Diner by
Yeah.
Tom Waits, which is fantastic. I would listen to that 50% of the time when I'm going to sleep. And
You'll
not
keep
like
saying, "Oh,
because it puts me to sleep, just because it's so relaxing and so smooth and like storyteller kind of stuff. And I really like that. Not
yeah,
because it's boring at all. So
yeah.
please do not think that I love Tom Waits. And then as well, Last Scream of the Missing Neighbors by Jello Biafra with DOA is just it's out of this world. Like the last track on that album is fantastic. It's like 15 minutes long, but it's worth it. Oh my God, it's incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's funny because I have similar experiences. And those were all great ones, by the way. A very mature and eclectic music taste you have, young
Thank
man. It's
you.
impressive. But for me, I have a few where like my favorite song I think that got me into like was like, do you remember? I don't know if you ever heard The Prodigy.
Yes,
And
yes.
I must have been like 4 years of age when Firestarter came out. And
Oh my God.
all my parents and best friends remember me being like, I'm a Firestarter, like running around the house with my top off, going crazy. Like that got me going. That was like squeezing me up and letting me go.
Yeah.
Like, um,
That's
band
incredible.
or the album was like had to be Arctic Monkeys. Whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not. That and even like that title, whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not. It's very kind of I hit the ten hit me back. You know, them
Yeah.
that band will always inspire me and super conceptual writer as well. And I think that
Yeah.
was a formative beginning of music. You know, I used to queue up outside a HMV every morning. They released an album and buy their CD. So I'd be there 8:30 in the morning before school with my dad, and I buy the CD and then I go to school. Like that's how big of a fan I was. It was like crazy stuff. Music's different now, and I think
Yeah.
for me as well, the one lyric that really grabbed me as a kid was when we were younger. Me and my sister were obsessed with this song, but my dad used to drive us around the car, and I suggested and spoke about fun loving criminals earlier, but they used to have this song called Scooby Snacks, yeah.
Yes, I was
Ronnie
waiting for you to say it.
Bag so whacked up on Scooby Snacks. And when I heard that as a kid, I was like, oh, music, writing lyrics is the funnest thing in the world. And I was introducing that song to a friend yesterday, and I was like, I was brought back to being a little kid again. And like, they're three big moments for me, you know. But music is great, isn't it?
You know what? Music is great. And I heard somebody say it to me the other day, and I found it very interesting where they said, "Oh, I don't listen to music that much." And I went, if you don't like anything that I like, I really don't care. As long as you listen to something, please tell me you listen
And
to something. Well, like I sometimes listen.
I listened
Well,
to
no.
one of
I,
my wait, listen to this, right? I agree. One of my favorite Irish acts right now did an interview, and I won't say who they are, but they did an interview. And I watched the interview, and they said they don't listen to music, and I was like, like it's almost funny. It's like,
yeah.
you know, the way people have a job and they hate their job, they're working in an office, or they're like, I don't know, they're working in a shop and they're not happy there, but they do it anyway because they need money. But it's like, you make music, you don't listen to music because you hate music. It's just, it baffled me.
It's
I was
very
like,
strange. It is very strange.
but
But I don't think people don't like music or don't listen to music. I just think people haven't found the music that they
I mean,
enjoy.
they're just a bit pretentious, or
That,
we won't get into it. We won't get into
yeah,
it.
because there'll be an argument and
You know what?
look, but I just think it's interesting. And then no, music is great. And like even where you're saying there, music is different. And that
Yeah,
really is annoying for me because I'm somebody who buys records.
yeah,
I don't like the most exciting thing for me doing on streaming service probably is pre-saving an album. But
yeah,
I would buy an album or I want to have it. Like obviously I have a really big CD collection there.
yeah. Amazing.
Most of it was from my dad. And
Mm,
then I had a ton of cassette tapes again from my dad. But then I
mm,
started a record collection of my own. And the whole thing was like, you're just coming out of a record store with that in your hand. And
yeah,
especially when it's a new album.
yeah,
And it's just interesting now how it's changed, and especially where a music scene. I can't just talk to somebody about, oh, did you hear Fontaine's DC's new single? Who's Fontaine's DC?
mm, mm, mm,
So music has changed a lot. Is it for
yeah,
the better? Is it for the worse? Music certainly has it, but the music scene, the music
yeah,
industry, who knows?
yeah,
Again, an argument, but
yeah, yeah.
no, I do think music is brilliant. And for someone who's part of the music scene, before we go, what tips would you give somebody who's joining the music scene?
I would say make music that you love and surround yourself with people who love you and love the music, whether that's bandmates, whether that's managers, whether that's friends who come to gigs. You know, it's very important to have a community, and for the passion to be driven by a love for it, and also just, get yourself out there, meet people like yourself, go to a gig and make friends. I think that was from a young age. I was getting the train up from Drogheda to Dublin to go and see like all my favorite bands, the Stripes at the time, Miles Kane, all these bands, Catfish and the Bottlemen, stuff like that years ago, and meeting friends that I've been friends with for life now, and I would have met them 15, 16 years of age. So just get yourself out there and meet people and just, yeah, love music and enjoy life.
Well, that is some fantastic advice from a fantastic musician. So if you want to stream or buy Nixer's music, I will have all the links down below. You don't have to worry about it. I hope you enjoyed the interview. But thank you so much, Seán, for joining me. I really appreciate it. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah, you're an amazing guy, and thank you so much for your time and best of luck with everything.
Thanks so much, Seán. Bye.
More sláinte.